Welcome. Thank you all for being here this morning. This is always a great event for us and the school system. My name is Bill Seiler, and I'm the School to Career Chairperson. And delighted to see all you lovely people in person. Last year we did this at the Natural Science Museum downtown, and we had a few people, but not many. And so it's great to see us coming back together post-pandemic and starting to gather again. So welcome and thank you for being here. The first thing I want to kind of address is what the School to Career is all about. And I kind of refer to it as a three-legged stool, that we have the business alliances, the career academies, and the career advisory teams, which we kind of commonly refer to as the CATs. And those three, the business alliances, are at each school. They work with the schools themselves. Each school, high school and many of the middle schools, have business alliances to work with them. And then the career academies, we have 23 now in Wake County, which is a cohort group that looks at a particular subject matter, whether it be information technology, construction, advanced manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. And so each one of those has an advisory board as well that helps them decide where they're going with that academy. And then finally, we have the CAT teams, which are the individual specialized subject matter taught within the school system, and they're looking at the curriculum and working with businesses to make sure we're teaching what those businesses need in today's world for our students. So that's what kind of constitutes the School to Career. And then we have a leadership team that is made up of various business professionals and academic professionals, and we also have the responsibility of working with Ms. Joanne Honeycutt, who's the CTE director in Wake County Public Schools, helping her and her group. And then in 2017, the North Carolina legislature passed a bill where each of the 100 counties in North Carolina have to have an advisory board that kind of advises them on what types of things they need to be looking at for the future for academics. And so the Board of Education here in Wake County kind of gave us that responsibility, which then required that we add some different people, because that Senate bill had some specific types of professionals that they wanted to make sure were sitting on that advisory board. So we do a lot of different things, wear many different hats, and it's exciting to see where we've come from since we started this journey in 1996. So I think this is roughly our 26th year of trying to acknowledge some of our volunteers that put forth so much effort into working with the school system. And it's imperative, as we found out in 1996 and 26 years later, I think it's been affirmed that we need business and education working together to make this all come together and work. And so we appreciate everybody that's doing that and working collaboratively to make our school system stronger. I'd like to thank the Wake Economic Development, which is a division of the Raleigh Chamber, for being a sponsor today. I think they understand as much as anybody that a good education system is imperative to having business come to your community. And although you hear a lot of different reports about schools and where they rank and issues and all this, I think it speaks pretty highly of the Wake County Public School System when you look at the number of companies that are coming to our area, because not only are they looking to make sure that they and their families and the families of their business can get a good education, but that they can also get people to run their businesses and participate in their businesses to get a good education and come to them as well. So, there's a lot of statistics and a lot of metrics, but I think the bottom line is that when you look at our area and how much it's growing, that's a real tribute to the Wake County Public School System and what they're doing. I'd like to recognize a couple groups, the School to Career Council, if they would stand. They are the ones that kind of look after all of this for us. And so if the members are in the audience, I'd like to recognize them. I'd also like to recognize our Board of Education members that are with us today. I think we had a few of them that signed up. Are there any here where their schedules get pretty busy? Thank you, Lindsay. And we have one gentleman who spent a lot of years on the Board of Education that's with us this morning, and he got defeated last time, but he's been very instrumental in where we are, Bill Fletcher, who's from Apex. I'd also like to recognize our military personnel. I noticed a few of them were here, and we appreciate all you do for us. If you would stand and be recognized, we'd appreciate that. And then all you business professionals, please stand. Thank you very much for all your volunteer efforts and working with the students. And then would all our academic teachers and counselors and et cetera stand, please. So every year we like to hear a little bit about what's going on in the school system, and there's no one, I think, in my opinion, that does a better job than telling us about that than our current superintendent. And Superintendent Moore and the Board of Education have faced some undaunting challenges over the last couple of years, things that no one has ever had to face before. And now coming out of the pandemic, they have some other opportunities that lie ahead. And so I think it's fitting. You all know Superintendent Moore. I'm not going to give you a history of her. She's the best of the best, and we're happy to have her with us today.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning to celebrate. And thank you for your continued support of our career and technical education programs and our school to career programs. As has already been alluded to, and as you all know too well, the last few years have created some challenges and opportunities for education. We are teaching and learning in new ways. We've moved from a period of reaction and response to a period of recovery. And yet here we are, in person, thank goodness, to celebrate, to thank those who are our volunteers that help us conduct our programming in our schools. We know that our students are the ultimate winners because of your work, the work that you do on a regular basis with our principals, our administrators, our CDCs, our Career Academy coordinators, our career advisory team leaders, the folks that we just talked about. We appreciate your commitment to stay the course in support of our students, our schools, and our CTE programs. I'd like to express my special appreciation to Bill Seiler, who has been for so many years the leadership and the face and the chair of the School to Career Council. His engagement with students through the ACE Mentor Program as well, his continued passion and engagement in ensuring that our kids are getting an education that prepares them for the future is just unmatched. And so I just want to thank him for his dedication. Thank you, Bill. Special thanks also to, as we just saw, the folks that were standing up, our Business Alliance members, our Career Academy Advisory Board members, our Career Advisory Team members, and all of the business partners who are supporting our middle and high schools. And as has already been done, I also want to join in thanking Wake County Economic Development for sponsoring the program this year. I also want to thank and recognize some of the talent that we have in our school system, as demonstrated by those who are providing technical support and artistic contributions today from the Middle Creek High School Digital Media Career Academy. These are students. Thank you to these amazing students and to the faculty that are supporting them here today. Our community understands and believes that today the skills that are required are far beyond what can be solely measured by a standardized exam where you're bubbling in answers. Many careers will require credentials in addition to a high school diploma to identify readiness for high wage, high skill, high demand opportunities. We also believe that there are multiple pathways to career success. Preliminary data suggests that our district graduation rate remains around 90%. And to have a pretty steady graduation rate after 2 years of the pandemic is pretty remarkable with the challenge and disruption that we had during those school years. However, we recognize that we still have work to do, and we're going to continue to stress the importance of creativity, communication, collaboration, and strong communication skills, problem solving in the classroom for our students, learning well beyond just memorizing answers. Our district staff members have worked tirelessly, and we are proud of the efforts of so many who support students in graduating them to be prepared for the future. I have previously shared with you from our strategic plan core belief number 1 that states, every student is uniquely capable and deserves to be challenged and engaged in relevant, rigorous, meaningful learning each day. Even though teaching and learning has changed some over the past few years, our belief in the ability of students, all students, to learn rigorous and relevant content each day has not wavered. And we continue and will continue to adapt our methods to meet the new environment and the new industry trends that we see. And you, our business community and partners, continue to adapt the opportunities that you provide for our students and our schools. As employers, principals, teachers, you understand that success after graduation is not predicated solely on what students know when they graduate, but what they can do with what they know and how they apply the academic and technical skills they have learned, regardless of the area that they pursue. As the number of careers in our economy that require more education than a high school diploma continue to grow, we are committed to helping students leave high school with a diploma plus credentials. It's why we have increased our focus on students earning industry-recognized credentials. Students in career and technical education have opportunities to demonstrate their skills through the acquisition of a variety of credentials. In 2021, our preliminary count of more than 16,000 credentials earned by high school students is the highest since we began offering credentials. And I just have to go off script for a minute. When you look at this chart, you see the impact of the pandemic. You see the dip in the industry-recognized credentials. But to get to the point and to get to the recovery where we are at and above where we were in 2019 is remarkable. We have talked quite a bit about the fact that it will take multiple years to really get past the impact of the pandemic, the move to remote and virtual learning, periodic school closures over the last couple of years. That's not an easy path, and it won't happen overnight. I guess unless you're CTE. And actually, it really isn't overnight either. Approximately 44% of the 21-22 graduates exited high school with diploma plus credentials. This is 4,934 unique students out of 11,000. As the number of credentials earned each year increases, we expect to see more graduates leaving us with these valuable credentials. You have continued to welcome our teachers and our students into your businesses. You have modified processes to allow students to work virtually in internships, joined immeasurable number of Google Meets for class presentations. You've provided virtual tours of your facilities, the list goes on. We have worked together to ensure that our students remain safe while experiencing the world of work. We know that when businesses support our schools, more students graduate ready for their next step. In fact, the graduation rate for students who have a CTE concentration, the students who are involved in the programs that you support, was more than 98% in 2021. As we increase the number of students that concentrate in an area of study, we can make a stronger impact on the overall graduation rate and future success. We see more students choosing CTE pathways that lead to concentrations. A focused area of study gives students an avenue to pursue their passion, to develop a sense of belonging and connections to staff, to build their schools for whatever they may do when they leave us. More important than all these numbers, however, is the message that I also want to send and leave you this morning. You are making a very distinct and positive difference in the lives of individual students like 2 Zebulon GT Magnet Middle students who worked with Diversify Architecture and won first place in a 2030 Interstellar Design competition. Students from a Microsoft class at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy for becoming global winners for the Global Innovation Challenge sponsored by Lenovo and JA Worldwide. 5 students from Fuquay-Varina High School who won gold at the FCC LA State Leadership Conference and then were eligible to attend the National Leadership Conference in San Diego, California. 2 of those students placed 3rd in the nation. East Wake High School's first NC TAP apprentice in the 2nd year of program, working with Siemens in Wendell, and pictured here with the governor. Wake Early College of Health Sciences, students having the opportunity to participate in person once again in a Wake Med mini medical school event. Middle Creek's Adobe Digital Media Academy students who won first place in the Skills USA Career Safe National Video Contest. Congratulations to all these kids. And then additionally, we have students who participated in our CTE summer programming, where many of you supported opportunities that students missed in previous school years, where you served as guest speakers, immersion site hosts, or supported the curriculum and the learning through coursework. The opportunities are numerous and unique, personalized for students, and matched to the needs of you, our partners. The common denominator is that these rich experiences equip students for what comes after high school: post-secondary education, work, military service. They leave with a deep understanding and capacity of the skills needed to be successful and experiences that make them uniquely qualified for whatever their next steps may be. We invite you to continue, well, we beg you to continue your invaluable partnership with us. We need more and different opportunities if we want every student to have a work-based learning experience before they graduate. I want you to know that your efforts matter, that your partnership is deeply appreciated. We do not take lightly the investment of time and resources in our schools and students that you are providing for us, because we know that literally from our hallways, our classrooms, our school communities, anything is possible. Thank you.
Our next speaker is someone that is very familiar with the school system and has volunteered many, many hours unselfishly. And she's from down in the southwestern part of the county, but she has made quite a significant impact in that part of the county. and she is our co-chair of School to Career, Ms. Wanda Denny.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. We currently have 23 career academies. Our two newest academies, there's one at Leesville Road High School and one at Wakefield High School. Career academies, as you've already heard, are smaller learning cohorts within a school that focus on career themes and integrate the students' CTE studies with their core curriculum. Academy students participate in numerous work-based learning activities such as job shadowing, career fairs, career-themed industry tours, which are known as OLEs. We like to talk in acronyms, and an internship. All students in a career academy must complete a 120-hour internship by their senior year. The teaching of the soft skills, applied skills, are integrated throughout the curriculum. Each career academy has a career advisory board made up of business volunteers, higher ed representatives from the specific career-themed academy, and they work with the academy coordinator, the students, and the teachers to support the career academy. CTE supports a continuum for work-based learning activities beginning in middle school that includes awareness, exploration, and preparation. One of the best ways that you can support our programs is to engage in those work-based learning. There are many different ways to participate, and it will fit in your schedule. We have a growing number of students who are being offered employment based on their work experiences. In the spring, we hosted a signing day for 7 students who were offered employment after participating in the SHED competition. That's where they worked alongside contractors. We also have a growing number of interns that are finding full-time employment with companies who are working with students to help provide tools, additional training, and even transportation. You can find our students on operating rooms, production floors, work sites, in business offices, kitchens, you name it, and we're sending students there. In addition, 6,966 volunteers participated in work-based learning events that impacted 144,000 students last school year. We are proud of the opportunities for our students to participate in various work-based learning experiences. As the numbers show, we had students that participated in apprenticeship, course-specific work-based learning experiences, and internships during last school year. Now to the fun part. It's my pleasure every year to introduce our student speakers. I'll introduce both of them and then they'll just come up. Paul is the son of Steve and Deborah Haynes of Zebulon. He is a current 8th grader at Zebulon GT Magnet School. He's been in the CTE student organization entitled Health Occupation Student Association, known as Hosa, for the past 2 years. He has attended district and state Hosa leadership conferences for the past 2 years. This past year, he scored high enough to attend Hosa International Leadership Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. He is a member of Zebulon Middle School National Junior Honor Society. He's a 3rd-year member of Zebulon Middle School Battle of the Books. He also is a member of their band where he plays trumpet. Outside of school, I mean, what time's he got left? Outside of school, he's a member of First Baptist Church on Wilmington Street in Raleigh, is involved in tech theater as well as youth choir. Our second student is Ananya James. She's currently a freshman at UNC after graduating from Wake Early College of Health and Sciences in 2022. In addition to graduating from Early College, she graduated from Wake Tech Community College, with an Associate of Science degree and was also a Wake County Public School System EMT graduate. At early college, she was a health science student, a member of American Red Cross as a blood donor ambassador. She worked with Wake Med as a guest ambassador. She was Science Olympiad president. She was Hosa chapter president while she conducted and presented research with Appalachian State in human physiology. Currently at Carolina, she's working with Orange County EMS as a certified EMT. She's part of UNC's Hosa, UNC's Global Med, UNC Best Buddies, where she volunteers with individuals with disabilities. She's also a member of Honors Carolina, the Accelerated Research Program, where she serves as an undergraduate research ambassador. Ananya is currently pursuing a double major in biochemistry and health policy and management program and is assured admission to the Gilling School of Public Health and a minor in medical anthropology. Whew, that's a mouthful. I give you Paul.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Haynes. I'm currently an 8th grader at Zebulon GT Magnet Middle School. I'm currently enrolled in Math 1, Advanced English, and a part of ZMS Hosa, Health Occupation Students Association. I love the variety of classes, electives, and clubs that are offered at Zebulon GT Magnet Middle School. I feel like all of these opportunities have prepared me for high school. In my career and technical education electives, I have learned so many practical real-life skills. In the family consumer science elective, finance and hospitality, I learned about personal finances, like how to make a budget and the importance of saving. I also learned how to plan and set up a food truck business, as well as how to create a business plan. As part of this class, I learned about the importance of safe and sanitary food preparation and earned the NC Food Handler certification. In my elective office productivity, I learned how to use different Microsoft Office apps and how to apply what we learned in a real-world business setting. I think that these CTE classes are very beneficial because they are related to the real world. So taking the classes now will help prepare us for the future. In my 6th grade year, we were virtual for about half the school year. Our Zebulon Career Development Coordinator, Ms. Creech, would be live from 12:30 to 12:50 on Wednesdays and Fridays during our 1-hour lunch break. On Workplace Wednesdays, she would be at different businesses or would be interviewing virtual different business professionals so we could learn about the variety of careers in all 16 career clusters. One of the tours I liked best was during Healthcare Students at Work Month. I tuned in and learned about all the healthcare positions and medical transport by air at Vidant Healthcare. Now, these were some cool medical careers that you do on a helicopter. On my future Fridays, she would be at a college, university, or a community college campus, and we would walk virtually with her as she showed us the campus. One of the ones I liked best was the East Carolina tour. It was cool to learn that we have a university so close by, less than an hour away, that has medical, dental, and engineering school. One of the main career development activities that I think helped me was the NC Career Clusters Match. Ms. Creech had us use this tool to complete the career interest inventory, and the results show me the best career clusters for me is health science. This was how I was introduced to the ZMS Hosa Club, which launched at Zebulon Middle School virtually, as we cannot meet on campus during my 6th grade year. Hosa is a student-led organization that empowers those that want to be in the healthcare field. Since we were a virtual club, one of our first community service activities was the Zebulon Women's Club Pots of Love, in which we adopted a flower pot in downtown Zebulon. We met in person on a school workday and planted flowers in our ZMS Hosa flower pot and got a chance to meet each other, masked of course, in person. This was one way we tried to build ZMS Hosa connections despite being in a virtual club. It was in that year's 6th grade that I completed virtually an NC Hosa leadership competition in April and placed second in the event Health Career Preparation. I was then able to move on to Hosa International Leadership Competition in June, and again competing virtually, placed in second in the nation. I thought this was pretty good for my first year in Hosa. Last year, my 7th grade year, we were able to meet in person for our ZMS Hosa Club. Our service project was Be the Match, where we set up a table at ZMS basketball games and in the Zebulon community at the Farm Fresh Market. We were trying to encourage our friends under 18 to join the pre-registry and those ages 18 to 40 to join the Be the Match registry by completing a cheek swab to be mailed in the Be the Match registry by the Be Match Foundation for matching. This is such a worthwhile service project as we are helping build the registry for those that are diagnosed with blood diseases like sickle cell or even bone cancers, so that they can be matched with someone who can donate blood or bone marrow, which could save their life. As a 7th grader, we had fun at our in-person Hosa meetings. We completed pickle labs and Snicker bar skin labs and got to dissect frog and fetal pig. We used our meeting time to work on our Hosa competition projects. So last year, as a 7th grader, I competed at NC Hosa Regional Leadership Conference virtually in November and placed first with the event Health Career Preparation. I was able to attend the in-person NC Hosa State Leadership Conference in Greensboro in April and placed second. From this placement, I was able to travel to Nashville, Tennessee for the Hosa International Leadership Conference in June. And although I didn't place, I felt lucky as I was the only 7th grade middle schooler in Wake County Public School System to make it that far. We had a great time in Nashville, and I got to take a trolley tour around the city and saw some amazing things. At the conference, we traded pins for other Hosa students from all over the world. It was an amazing experience. All in all, I feel like the CTE and career technical student organizations like Hosa have made a huge difference preparing me for whatever's headed my way in the future. So this year, my Hosa goal is to make it to Hosa International Leadership Conference in Dallas, Texas. As a current 8th grader, my next step in the few months is to complete my application to one of our awesome WCPSS early colleges and or career academies like East Wake High School's Academy of Life Science, so I can reach my dream of becoming a neurosurgeon or anesthesiologist. Thank you, business partners. Thank you, Wake County Public School System, for providing with such a wide range of experiences and opportunities.
Great job.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Ananya James, and I'm a freshman at UNC. So firstly, I would like to thank Ms. Hill and the organizers of this event for providing me the opportunity to reflect upon my experiences in high school. As part of the Wake Early College program, one of my most formative experiences in realizing my passion for the health sciences was my participation in the Wake County EMS program. In the program, I was in class learning how to perform life-saving procedures such as administering epinephrine, conducting CPR, addressing trauma scenes, and then I would follow alternate weekends conducting clinical shifts, implementing these skills on the general population. However, EMS did more for me than teach me skills. The experience brought me closer to finding who I am as a student and individual. It was not the elaborate displays of medicine that made EMS valuable, but rather the daily patient interactions that made me value the work done in the field. Every clinical shift, I would see the fear of a parent's eyes quickly replaced with gratefulness and joy because of something as simple as Tylenol and words of encouragement. It was the camaraderie of all the EMS providers working together to support future cadets that made me realize the value of mentorship and education. At the end of each shift, when we witness something traumatic, the collective discussions and checkups with the team encouraged me to pursue medicine despite all the hardships and failures I would inevitably experience. The ability to witness and react to real experiences across various demographics taught me kindness, open-mindedness, and responsibility. However, this lesson was not just exclusive to my experience in EMS, but in addition to my time as a guest ambassador for Wake Med Hospitals. During the experience, I witnessed the everyday struggles of regular, real people, which allowed me to appreciate the non-clinical and service-based portion of medicine. Additionally, I was able to meet friends who shared similar experiences and goals to what I was willing to do, and mentors willing to impart their knowledge to me, which gave me a personal community in such a large field. Lastly, one of the service organizations I was most invested in at Wake Early College was Hosa, Future Health Professionals. I was fortunate enough to serve as WEC's chapter president and a North Central regional officer through the club. My commitment to Hosa led me to find my passion for education and public speaking through my participation in niche competitions at the regional, state, and international levels, and interaction with Hosa alums and guest speakers. Furthermore, Hosa prompted me to analyze my own community and inspired me to start several efforts, such as mentoring middle schools like Zebulon Middle to create their own Hosa chapters, and encouraging current upperclassmen to share advice with underclassmen within both the school, inside and outside Hosa. These experiences have invigorated my love for the medical field and have allowed me to remain confident in my pursuit of becoming a practicing physician and an educator of public health at Chapel Hill. Because of the early college program and the transfer of over 60 credits, I now have the freedom to explore all the facets of my personality and dive deep into my major while having several post-secondary options, such as graduating a year early or obtaining my master's degree in public health. It is a combination of my education and experience that is pertinent to my success at Chapel Hill. The interpersonal skills developed through countless hours spent with individuals with vastly different outlooks encourage free communication as I volunteer with the disabled community through Chapel Hill's Best Buddies. The ambassadorship with Wake Med Hospitals provided countless scenarios that have been translated to the continuous provision of care at the hospitals at Chapel Hill through my participation in UNC EMS and the South Orange Rescue Squad. The time spent longs for me to repay the programs which have built me to this point, driving me to mentor the next generation within Chapel Hill's Hosa. The culmination of my medical journey has brought me the confidence and achievement to build the connections I have today. For example, it has opened a network of professors, medical students, and faculty that has given me a research position currently in conducting immunofluorescence staining of mice brain sections in advanced microscopy. In addition, my previous activities have motivated me to continue to work with a diverse group of students through student organizations such as Carolina New Student and Family Program, which is in charge of leading newly admitted and prospective Carolina students. However, the path I have taken has not just been assigned worth through my experiences, but rather found the true value in experiencing the path. Along the way, it has built me to the person I am today and the healthcare professional I hope to one day become. The scientist driven by research and the next era of medical evolution, and the humanist empowered by the lives she touches. Thank you.
I don't know about you all, but as I sit and listen to these students, I reflect when I was in the 8th grade or when I was a senior. I don't quite measure up to it. I don't know what it is. I think the only word as I was sitting there listening to them that I could really describe was wow. Thank you. Our keynote speaker today is a gentleman that really needs no introduction. Has been around our state for many, many years. He was the former president of Craven Community College. was the former head of the community college system of North Carolina from 2008 to 2015. He left us for a few years and went to Virginia. He'd heard that Virginia was for lovers. He had to explore that. Decided it wasn't quite the panacea that he thought, so he came back. And we're really very honored that he is back. He's done a lot of great things in his current role as the president of Wake Tech. He's known for his work in fostering industry and education partnerships, as well as being a catalyst in fostering unique university articulations. And just last week, he signed an articulation agreement with one of our HBCUs. And so it's always great to hear from this gentleman and see what Wake Tech is doing. A lot of people don't know, but Wake Tech has 70,000 students, so it's by far the largest university or post-secondary education here in North Carolina. But the things that we're doing, as I started out the meeting talking about all these companies coming here, presents a real challenge for he and his team. And so hopefully maybe we'll hear a little bit about that today as he talks about fishing. I present Dr. Scott Rawls of Wake Tech. You've got the unambiguous position of following these news.
Yeah, I want to thank Bill for this coveted speaking position behind Paul and Ananya this morning. I can hear my preacher dad whispering in my ear, just say the benediction and get the heck out of there, because we have. But I do have a little thing to talk about, and it's called Fishing Tales, and I'll kind of get to that in just a minute. But I did have the opportunity to speak to this group. It was almost 10 years ago, which was why I was really surprised that Bill called me to invite me back again. So I'm excited to be here. I was trying to rack my brain a little bit about, what did I talk about 10 years ago? And I was able to dig it up a little bit and find out that, what I talked about that day was the impending labor shortage and what that would mean. And I was glad to see that's what I talked about, because it gives me the opportunity to come back and say to everyone, see, I told you so. Here we are right now. A lot's happened since that time, and things have just accelerated even more. So I'm going to build on that a little bit with my conversation about fishing tales. And truthfully, fishing tales is not anything that you need to hear about. This is what I often talk to employers about thinking more broadly, thinking a little more about how they engage with public education, and also about how they hire if they're going to overcome some of the workforce challenges that they find themselves in today. That's what I was talking about 10 years ago. And now, 10 years later, we find that the challenges that we saw or we thought about 10 years ago have been accelerated almost by a decade. If you look at just the numbers, certainly COVID was the reason for that acceleration. So 10 years ago, I used to do this little shtick. And I would kind of present the challenges that were coming to us by talking about Social Security. And I would note that at that time, there were 7 workers for every Social Security beneficiary in the United States. And by the time I retired, I'm the last of the baby boomers. In fact, they bumped up our eligibility by 2 years. But by the time I retired, there would only be 2 workers for every 1 Social Security beneficiary. And what I would say is that I wanted my 2 workers to be some of the most educated, highest paid workers out there. Because that's a challenge that we're all, but it was talking about the changes in demographics and the fact that, we have to think and value everybody coming through our educational system to deal with the workforce challenges that were going to confront us 20 years hence. Well, it turned out that it was 10 years, because what happened with COVID? COVID came along and it changed. It really accelerated everything, because so many people left the workforce. So many people who are 55 and over left the workforce, and 2/3 are not coming back. And at the same time, many people left the workforce because of childcare and other issues, and they're finding the challenges in coming back. And we already knew we were going to run into challenges because there are fewer and fewer high school graduates and college graduates and 18 to 24-year-olds than there were before, which causes us to value higher ed and public education more than we have before and think a little bit differently about it. So I'm going to build on that conversation a little bit more today in terms of fishing tails. Now, 10 years ago when I spoke, I don't have a clue what I said, but I do recall that I told some story about my dog. And the reason I remember that is because I remember a lot of people chuckled, but my wife came with me that day, and she was sitting right down front. And it sometimes happens when, you know, your spouse is with you, they don't go along with the joke as much. So she was kind of glaring at me like, where in the world are you going, while others were chuckling. And, you know, Lisa's still with me, but I didn't tell her where I was going this morning. So she's not with me. But I do have a new dog. This is my new dog. This is Pluto. Now, Pluto my old dog passed away, which is what happens to old dogs. But now I have a new dog. Pluto showed up one day, it's about 4 or 5 years ago. One of my sons brought Pluto. He was the cutest puppy you have ever seen. Now Pluto has grown into a 95-pound pit bull, it turns out. And you know, when you take those sunglasses off, he's a little scary looking, but he's the sweetest dog you could ever see. But Pluto has some incredibly bad habits. Pluto wakes me up same time every morning to be fed. And the thing that's the really bad habit is at about 8 o'clock every night, if I sit down in a chair, he just starts this slow whine that just picks up and picks up and picks up until, unless I get up and pop some popcorn, he's not going to be quiet. Now, my wife says I have worse habits than Pluto, but, you know, we kind of share those bad habits. So what I want to twist here, you know, this is a carry on from what I said 10 years ago. That's my dog story. But it's really about thinking a little differently, which was what I was talking about 10 years ago. We got to think differently if we're going to deal with the workforce challenges. And, you know, for the employers here, I'm preaching to the choir. But a lot of times when I have a chance to talk to employers about thinking differently about hiring practices and about investing in the future of the workforce, I'll use the example of fishing lessons, and that's what I'm going to turn to. But first, in getting into that, let me tell you how I think about that. So first, I want to thank you all for, you know, welcoming me back to Wake County. When I came in here, I forgot how many people I know here and who I've worked with over the years. And, you know, a lot of people ask me because, you know, I was here and then I was gone for 4 years and then I came back and somebody said, well, why'd you do that? And, you know, I'll go through these reasons. I loved my college where I was, but the truth is I was homesick, you know. And in many cases, I was homesick for many of you because what I found in Virginia, which was a wonderful place, is that sometimes you have to be away from the wonderful place where you were to realize how wonderful it was. And what's so wonderful here is the connections between public schools and community colleges and universities and the environment that's here. Just last week, I had the opportunity in speaking to a groundbreaking when I mentioned early colleges, and a student came up and said, I was in an early college. And talking to her, I realized she was in the early college where I was when we were at Craven Community College. Those are the kind of things that I missed here. And I miss Wake County. So this is my home. So when the opportunity to be at Wake Tech opened, I jumped at it. And we all love this area. I mean, this is such a wonderful place to live. If you don't believe it, Money Magazine just said we're the third best place to live in the country. You know, and not everybody comes to visit us because we don't have a lot of things to see, but our great community is represented by our icons. So our icons, you know, are acorns and sunflowers and donut signs and hot wiener signs and things like that. And, you know, it's not everything that everyone appreciates to visit, but you sure appreciate that when you live here. Now, my favorite icon here in Wake County is this particular icon. Rosalind, if you go to the next slide. And does anybody know where this is? Pullen Park. So this is Andy and Opie fishing, and this is the statue at Pullen Park. I loved every time I take my kids to Pullen Park going and looking at that statue. I grew up in North Carolina, so I'm one of those people, and there are a lot of people like this in North Carolina that believe all great lessons can be learned somewhere within the episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. And one of the lessons is about fishing, in my opinion. And I'm going to extrapolate that to employment. But if you remember in terms of when Andy would take Opie fishing, there never was anyone else around, right? You know, they were always in a certain place by themselves. Now, the truth is that's probably because they were fishing in a man-made pond on the back lot of a movie set or a studio. But I like to think it's because Andy always knew that, you know, fish can be found in every part of the pond. And if you just go to the same fishing hole all the time, you're not going to have the success. You're not always going to catch the big fish unless you move around the pond where you can find big fish. And that's often my message to employers these days, because what we saw going back 10 years ago is that a lot of employers were holding on to bad habits, like Pluto and myself. A lot of them came out of the 2008 recession when a lot of people were laid off, and then they came back and human resources offices were automated, and a lot of the focus was how you screen people out without screening people in, looking for non-traditional pathways, non-traditional opportunities, ways of thinking that influenced us back at that time, but I think hurt a lot of employers now as they look forward. When I was in Virginia, I had this great chance to work with Amazon, and I always appreciated working with Amazon because they valued our college, Northern Virginia Community College, like you wouldn't imagine. I often thought about it in contrast to another employer who often complained that they could not find enough employment and were really upset about it. But they also would brag that they only hired from these 10 colleges and universities. Unlike Amazon, who said to us, we value you because we know the big fish that come out of a college like yours. Rosalind, if you'll go to the next slide. So my message is to employers these days, and the employers who are here do not need to hear this because you would not be here if you did not understand this. But my message to employers is start thinking differently about fishing. Fish in different places. If you are putting your hook where more and more people are putting their hook in the same fishing hole you always went to and wondering why you're not catching fish, then maybe you need to examine your fishing and look more broadly and look in places that you haven't looked. And for too many years, and we know this, those of us who were, and I consider myself, at the core, a career and technical person, that too often our students could be undervalued relative to others. And that's where so many employers have missed the boat, not the ones that are here. And so thinking broadly about where you look, and I often will always point, and going back to, this is a bias of mine, is, one of the best places to look is Wake Tech Community College if you're in this region. Here comes the Wake Tech ad. But, it was noted, we're the biggest college of any type in North Carolina, but it's not just how big we are and how many fish we have, it's what happens. And it's not just what happens at Wake Tech, it's what happens because of what happens in our partnerships with Wake County Public Schools through Wake Tech. And a lot of people these days are questioning the value of higher education, particularly as it relates to careers and employment. It's causing families to question, it's causing students to question. And that's why I like referring to this study that came out at the beginning of the summer. It was from Georgetown University. And Georgetown University looked at all of the colleges and universities in the United States, ranked every college and university using data and using a metric that essentially was return on investment for students, 10 graduates, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years after graduation. The big headline story that came out of that study nationally was that at over 30% of America's colleges and universities today, more than 50% of the graduates from 10 years ago would have been better off financially had they never gone to those colleges or universities. Why? Because the return in terms of what they were making could not pay for the cost they encountered going there. And, it's understandable because in the last 20 years, higher education has been second only to healthcare in terms of inflation over those years. And so that's why you see so many people questioning higher ed. Now, you can go in and plug in every college and university in the country, which I did for Wake Tech, And when you go back and look behind, you find that Wake Tech is among the top 20% of all colleges and universities in the United States and top 10% in North Carolina in terms of return on investment for students 10 years after graduation. Now that's for a couple of reasons. One is because they often walk out with great skills and knowledge into job opportunities that are in this region, but it didn't cost them a fortune to go. In fact, last year we made it for all graduates free for this year. And so that's why, there are many fish at Wake Tech and some really big fish that are in our programs and are in our career technical programs. And we've just seen two of the biggest in terms of Ananya and Paul that we're talking about. So looking at different places, looking at places like Wake Tech. Now, for us to make sure we have as many fish out there, if we're just looking at it from a selfish workforce employment perspective, not just about doing the right thing, which also is important, but as we have to make sure that our ponds stay stocked with our fish. And one of the things we've seen that's happened with COVID is for too many of our students, our fish out there, they did not keep moving forward during COVID. In fact, for many of our students who are in the lowest income high schools, that's where you've seen a significant percentage drop in students going to college. It happened most in low income high schools that have the highest free and reduced lunch. And so we're seeing those challenges. But those challenges have always been there because for many students, they're born, my kids, there was never a question whether they were going to college. They were told from the beginning they're going to college, and they never had a choice really whether they were going to college, and they never ever questioned it. But many students question whether that opportunity is there for them. Can they go beyond college? Will it be possible for it? So it's incumbent on each of us, whether we're inclined so altruistically or whether we're just looking at it from a workforce perspective, that we reach everyone out there and make sure they're part of that pond and succeeding through high school and then beyond. At Wake Tech, we've taken this as a personal mission for our college in that role, and we take great pride in who we are in being an inclusive college. As we like to say, there are some colleges, and we understand this, that take pride because they take less than 10% of the applicants. We take the top 100%, and we're extremely proud of that. Our goal is to make sure that all of them cross a high standard finish line. But we want all the students in every region of our county to be part of that pool. So that's why we use this term reach and rally. Years ago, the community colleges were created on a mission of taking people where they are and carrying them as far as they can go. We've just tweaked that mission into our vision where we say we want to reach students in every part of Wake County because we can't just wait till they get there. We have to reach out and work with you. And then when students come to Wake Tech, we don't carry them anywhere. They gain their voice, their empowerment, but when we rally around them and they know that we're not going to let life circumstances get in their way if we can prevent it, they're going to succeed and move forward. So that's why you hear us talk about reach and rally. And what it means for us really too is we have to pay attention to particularly areas of our community where college going is at lesser rates. We have to invest in all areas of our region, and you'll see that in our geographic spread. I can see Anthony Gaines sitting out here. He's a pace setter for us because he's our first advisor counselor who's out at working with East Wake and Knightdale, because we're giving a particular focus on Title I and other high schools where, the college going rate last year was closer to 50% compared to some of our other high schools where it was closer to 90%. We need everybody in the pond, and that's our goal, and we want everybody to succeed at Wake Tech, and that's part of the fishing tail. And we see our role, too, as our region's ladder college. And this also speaks a little bit to what is the challenge of our region. As I mentioned, we just were ranked the third best place to live by Money Magazine. It used to be said that 64 people a day were moving into Wake County every day. And I recently heard, well, now that's over 100. I don't know that for a fact, but somebody mentioned to me that, and we just know a lot of people are moving here, and they're moving here because this is where the opportunity is. If you look at every economic statistic, we're in the top 5 of what you want to be, whether it's best place to live, best tech hubs, whatever. And people are moving here. But here's the thing. To gain opportunity in our community, you shouldn't just have to move here like I did or others did. you should be able to move up here. And that's very much where CTE comes in. That's where what we call laddering comes in, because we are a tremendous magnet. But sometimes it's been said we have a broken ladder. Here's the reason why. While we're top 5 in everything, in 2017, a very well-known economist named Raj Chetty, was at Stanford, now at Harvard, rated every community metropolitan region on economic mobility. And while we're top 5 in everything, we got rated as 95th out of 100 in economic mobility. What that means, if you translate it, is that if you grow up poor in our county, there's less likelihood of not being poor as an adult if you stay in our county than in the other 95 regions. That should just not be the case in a place like this that has so much opportunity. And that's why sometimes it's said we have a broken ladder. So what we are taking on as our focus at Wake Tech is to be our region's ladder college. And what that also means sometimes is you have to think about it where fish can climb ladders, because, you know, for many students and for many families, reaching what we see is, some of us just assume as college graduation, going to graduate school, for some that's just such a big leap, it's hard to even imagine. But if you think about it like a ladder, you don't have to take the leap. You just have to get from rung to rung to rung to rung. And so thinking about it in terms of that laddering, let me give you an example of what we mean. Think about biopharma. Bill mentioned, you know, all this happening in terms of companies that are coming in, and we work with every one of them. And I'll tell you that if a company is considering Wake County, chances are that Kathy's going to be talking to them, I'm going to be talking to them, Chancellor NC State's going to be talking to them. We're going to be selling our ecosystem, and what we have to sell here is unique. And you can see this across, but this is what we would refer to in terms of laddering. Go back one more slide, please. So think about in terms of biotech, biopharma. Think about what's happened here in the last year. Fujifilm Diosynth, the largest contract manufacturer in North Carolina, building in Apex, Holly Springs. Amgen, Securus expansion. We just had the Spark announcement, $1 billion investment just 1 mile away from our RTP campus. Now, how do you get there if you're someone in our county that you can't even imagine what that is? Well, if you're in high school, you can get there through Vernon Malone High School, where the biopharma program, our biopharma program, is part of that high school. Or now you can get there through the Wake Early College for Information and Biotechnologies at our RTP campus, where the biotech degree is embedded. If you're a working adult, you can start in workforce training and bio work and carry that into a job at one of the biopharma companies, but keep moving forward into our biopharma degree. And if you get our biopharma degree and you want to go to ECU, as was mentioned earlier, well, ECU is now co-located with us, and they'll be on our East Wake campus where you can complete that biopharma degree from ECU with us. But then you need more advanced education. Well, where do you go from there? Well, we work together. We are part of the Biotech Education Center at NC State. We have one floor where we work with the university folks, and we're on the other floor, and you can get that advanced training in areas like good manufacturing practices and validity, validation, and other things. There's no other ecosystem like that in the country. We just have to make sure folks know that you can get there, and you don't have to take the huge leap, but one rung, one step at a time. That's laddering. And I want to make a plug. So we need to support public education. We need to support community colleges. We need to support public universities. I'm sometimes, as a son of a public school teacher and someone who can remember the names of every teacher I think I had coming along, as well as my principals, Mr. Kuntz in high school and Mr. Patton in middle school. I can go back and remember those names. And so sometimes I'm kind of appalled these days when I see, you know, well, let me just say this. We need, from an employment perspective, a workforce perspective, if nothing more, for our teachers and our public school officials to know how valued they are. Because if we don't value our public schools and our community colleges and our universities, we'll never get past our workforce challenges. Now, there are ways for us to value our public schools coming up. You know, there's a vote November 8th. There's a couple of bonds on that vote, you know. And when we do things and we do things together, big things happen. Let me just give you a few quick examples. Big things are happening right now at our RTP campus. Just this fall, we started a new early college in information and biotechnologies with a goal that 70% of those students will be first-generation students entering into those areas. You know, it's a unique opportunity, and on Monday we'll announce a new university partnership, which will be in that same building, creating those seamless pipelines that are here, and they're only possible here. That new facility is remarkable. This is what we can do when we have the capability and the resources to work together. Go to the next slide. At our northern campus now, we have our Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence. This fall, we have 271 automotive technician students, which is more than double than we had 2 years ago, and we'll grow to 300. That's remarkable. We have 6 manufacturers, GM, Ford, that are working with us, and we're able to set up our models to accommodate apprenticeship. So what's really unique this year is we have 51 students working with us, 51 students who are apprentices, and they were students who came straight out of high school, and in that first year were hired as apprentices, and we've set up our schedule so that they can do that. If you're a GM student, you go 2 days a week and work 3 days a week. If you're a Ford student, you're with us for 2 months and then you're working for 2 months. It's that earn and learn model, and now Wake Tech, I believe, is the fastest growing apprenticeship college in the United States. Next slide. And coming soon to East Wake is what's going to be a remarkable opportunity, East Wake High School, East Wake High School. I say that because it's right across the street from East Wake High School, so East Wake High School should consider it part of East Wake High School. But right down the road from Knightdale, Zebulon, in an area of the county that needs us, and remarkable partnerships with our universities, NC State, ECU, Elizabeth City State, and remarkable opportunities for students. The student who was in the picture with Governor Cooper was a student named Ethan Clark, who graduated last year from East Wake High School. Ethan is now a student at Wake Tech. He was a youth apprentice last year. He's an apprentice this year at Wake Tech, working at Siemens. I had dinner with Ethan this summer, and his schedule was remarkable. I mean, last year, getting up at 6 o'clock, going to work, doing basketball practice at East Wake, coming back to work, but you know, what he's able to accomplish and what we're going to be able to make possible at this new facility for students like Ethan is going to be amazing. All right, that being said, let me wrap this up. All right, I knew Bill might pull a fast one on me. I knew he might put me right behind the students. So I had to finish with some student stories, and this comes back to the idea of fishtails. And this is the messages to our employers out there and to the community who, you know, are looking for, where are we going to find the workers of the future? They're there. They're with us right now. They're in our CTE programs. They are at Wake Tech. And what people sometimes don't realize is how big the fish are out there. We've just got to change our fishing practices to find them. So when I came to Wake Tech almost a little over 3 years ago, I started meeting students. I started meeting graduates within 6 months. These are students I met within 6 months, and their stories are remarkable. And what makes it so remarkable is like Ananya's story and Paul's story. They're remarkable stories, but they're unique stories to them, but these stories are out there. When I used to be president at Craven Community College, I came home and told my wife stories all the time about students. And I remember her stopping me and saying, if I did not know you better, if I had not lived with you so long, I would think you make these stories up. They're like fish tales. You know, I caught a fish like this, but you come back and it's like this. That's what you will find when you fish differently and you look differently at who is out there, because, you know, the talent is out there. Talent is not determined by geography, but opportunity often is, and we have to focus on those opportunities. So let me tell you my fishtails that I ran into in my first 6 months. I ran into Candace Parker. Candace was a recent graduate. Unique because in many of our skilled trades programs, we need way more females. We need many more African American and other minority students to be able to meet the needs. Candace was unique because she was a graduate of those, and she has had a remarkably successful career in construction management. Candace was a graduate when I met her, a recent graduate, a former Scott Scholar. Now she's the incoming chair of the Wake Tech Foundation. I met Tiffany Harrell. You see Tiffany with her 5 kids. Tiffany's story was remarkable. Tiffany had grown up all around eastern North Carolina in foster homes. And because she had had to move so much in foster homes, she never was able to, achieve what she needed to in terms of achieving her high school diploma. So she came to Wake Tech to get her GED. At that time, we didn't have our Fostering Bright Futures program, so she didn't have the money to keep going to school, so she left. She came back after getting married and having her kids and was the most amazing computer programming student you could find. But then her husband died, and she was left as a widowed mother with 5 kids, dropped out again until she came back into our computer programming program, got involved with work-based learning through Lenovo, and that picture was at our convocation. She had just been offered a full-time job, and now she is she has a management position at Lenovo that pays her so much that I've tried to recruit her back as a teacher, and she won't even consider it. She says she'll do it after a little while. I met Eddie Mutebi my first week here, and this was at Ignite. Eddie came from Uganda. Eddie grew up an orphan in Uganda, lots of abuse, huge challenges. He was able to get out. He was going to George Mason University, but everything fell through. And fortunately for him, he found a program called Embrace Uganda through a church in Cary, and a remarkable woman, Billy Redmond, and her family, who took her in and got Eddie to Wake Tech. And Eddie blew it away. He was a data science graduate from NC State when that picture was taken at his celebration at Billy's house, and now he works at IBM in data science. I met Khadijah Scarborough, who's one of our Fostering Bright Future students, a foster youth, grew up in this area. And the story of foster youth is their graduation rates from college are in single-digit numbers. But with things like Fostering Bright Futures and other opportunities, we can prevent that. And so Khadijah, when I met her, was a student who was just starting at Wake Tech, but in December, I'll shake her hand again because she'll be graduating from our nursing program. And finally, a remarkable story, and talking about early colleges and Ananya. I met Michael Denning. Lisa Cummings is here with Lisa one day at an event early on at Early College High School. Michael's story was this. Michael grew up in Garner. He was a student in the Southeast Raleigh Promise program. And as Michael tells the story, he'll say, my parents told me, there's no way we can afford to send you to college. You'll have to figure this out. And he did, and he got online, and as he tells the story, he found the Wake Early College for Health Sciences. And like Ananya, Michael graduated with so much credit that when he transferred to ECU, he finished with an MBA while everybody else was finishing with their bachelor's degree. And then the next year, during COVID time, he went to Columbia University and got an accelerated master's in public health. And then the next year, he went to ECU, where I think Michael's in his second year of medical school now. And so by the time Michael's 26, a kid who wasn't sure, and his family wasn't sure how he was going to go to college, by the time Michael's 26, he's going to be an MD, MBA, Master's of Public Health, and wants to come back to this community. Now, we celebrate those stories because those are Michael's stories, just like they're Ananya's stories and they're Paul's stories and others, but they're also your stories. And that's the thing we need to keep in mind. That's why I wanted to be back here, because I think there's no other place where that story happens than here. And we need to embrace that, and we need to appreciate that, and we need to preach about that and tell people about that, because that is the special thing that is Wake County Public Schools and Wake Tech and is at this community. And that is the fishtail that will help solve a lot of our challenges that so many of our employers think they face here and now. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks for allowing me to be here today and to share with you the stories of Wake Tech, but really the stories of what happens because of the great partnerships and the work that you do and the work that we do and the things that we're able to do together. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, thank you very much for being here, and on behalf of Wake County Public Schools, a little token of our appreciation. Thank you. Okay, we now come to the part of the program where we recognize some folks that have done some great work. And I would ask the following people to come up here And by the red tablecloth up here, Dr. James Alexander, Mr. John Gordon, Miss Michelle Merritt Tucker, Miss Marcia Navision, Miss Olone and Mr. Lloyd, Miss Kendall Rush and Miss Jennifer Jones, Mr. Mike Germano, Miss Sheila Benny, and Miss Sarah Torensky. If you would come up, please. These are the folks that were nominated by CDC, CACs, principals, CTE people, whomever, some principals. And for the sake of time, some of these things were 3 and 4 pages long. So I went and picked out 3 or 4 bullets just to give you a little bit of background as to why these particular individuals were selected for this year's award. The first one is Dr. James Alexander, who's the Human Service Facility Director at North Carolina Correctional Institute for Women. He's a founding member of the North Wake College and Career Academy Business Alliance and was then the Business Alliance co-chair and now the chairman. He's participated in career fairs, mock interviews, career exploration events, provided career talks, which is a program that deals with information on professionalism and resume writing. He's mentored students and has actually been the commencement speaker at their graduation. Dr. Alexander this past year worked with the CDC to assist in developing a career development plan for this 2022-2023 program year. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Appreciate it very much. I want you to, we got to look at this guy. Thank you. Our next person is a person that's already on the stage, and she has done quite a few remarkable things. As I said when I introduced her earlier, she's been on our School to Career Council for over 20 years, and the last 6 as the leader of the Business Alliance. In the spring of 2021, she set out to establish a joint business alliance between Fuquay-Varina High School, Middle School, and the new high school out in that part of the world, Willow Springs. At the first meeting, there were over 30 business leaders that she and others recruited, and the first meeting of the Southern Wake Business Alliance was off and running. She oversees the Southern Wake Youth Leadership Group as the Business Alliance chair. She was instrumental in getting this organization developed and off the ground years ago, but continues to stay involved, and she's also leads the committee that reviews applications and assists in selecting students for this honor. One of the things that I've had the opportunity to do throughout the years is understand that Wanda is a volunteer extraordinaire who has a passion for shoes. And there's no one that has more shoes than Wanda except Joanne. So between Joanne and Wanda, when I go to meetings, I'm always looking at shoes because they're never the same. Wanda, thank you very much. Look at her at the camera. Our next recipient is Mr. John Gordon, who's the CEO of Whomai. Did I pronounce that right, John? Whomai, okay. John actually worked with Lenovo before he went out on his own, but as a member of the Wake STEM Early High School Business Alliance, he has taken the lead and worked with the team to develop a professional development for the teachers around virtual reality and esports implementation in classrooms. His team worked with teachers, and they have provided technical support to help the teachers explore how to use and infuse this technology into innovative practice. He volunteered for the first virtual online mock interview and spent the entire day working with the students. He participated in a wearable device challenge, just goes to show you where we are with education these days, where he provided students with constructive feedback on their device pitches so students were better prepared to be able to offer an effective elevator pitch, which will assist them later as they start looking for work. He's a great business partner. He makes innovative, authentic learning for the students at Wake STEM a priority. He provides authentic feedback and looks for ways to help grow our students and engages them in opportunities outside the classroom. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Thank you very much. And we got to look at this guy. Thank you. Our next recipient is Miss Michelle Merritt Tucker of Studio 113 from South Garner High School, which started their academies this year and their business alliance. She welcomed 14 students into her salon for job shadowing. Students had the opportunity to learn about various opportunities in the cosmetology field. They got to experience cosmetics, makeup application, and hairstyling. On Career Conversations Day, she brought supplies, equipment, and an additional stylist with her. And during her visit, she styled a teacher, and she talked to the students and educated them about what she was doing, a little bit about the world of cosmetics and business ownership. She gave one of the students an opportunity to participate in her hair studio expo at her place. And she was a guest speaker at the South Garner as part of the Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow program. She spoke to the group of students that aspire to become entrepreneurs, and she was able to give them ideas and suggestions as they worked on their business plans to become entrepreneurs. She's done a lot. Thanks very much. Look right here at the guy with the camera. Our next recipient is Miss Marcia Navision. She's the owner of Carolina Commercial Systems, and she is an active advisory board member representing the multi-trades program, and she will serve as the vice chair on the advisory council for the next term, 2022 to 2024, at Vernon Malone College and Career Academy. She coordinated the first internship experience at Carolina Commercial Systems during this past summer, and she hired 2 welding students and gave them the opportunity to intern and get that very good experience. She brought a team of her folks to the school, and they performed one-on-one interviews with the potential interns and provided them real-time feedback, which is a real benefit since many of our students have not had the opportunity to interview and get that experience. In an effort to support the HVAC and welding programs at Vernon Malone, she coordinated Carolina Commercial Systems donation of equipment to be used by our students in the trades. And finally, being a construction guy, she did something that I thought was really quite opportunistic and provided and implemented and funded OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 certificates for all 11th and 12th grade facility maintenance, technology, and welding students. Very well done. Thank you very much. Look at the camera, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next recipient is from Wake County Early College of Health Science, and it's 2 folks, Khadijah Scarborough and Julian Lloyd from Siemens Healthineers. Ms. Otland was a member of the original planning team for Wake Early College of Health Science, and 16 years later, it is now still going strong. She participated both in the Wake Early College Business Alliance and the Wake County Public School System Career Advisory Team, if you remember earlier, the CATS. She's reached out to other Wake County public schools focused on similar medical and healthcare focuses regarding possible connections and collaborations with the idea of offering internships and or apprenticeships to these students. So she's up here with Mr. Lloyd, and it says that it was pretty evident in the first meeting that he had instant connection and recognition with the students and has a passion for health careers, especially for students that may not have the same resources as their peers. His enthusiasm for expanding their experience and knowledge of career opportunities is infectious. He's worked with the Siemens team to provide guest speaker students for the Wake Early College. The virtual sessions brought professionals from across the country, which provided them some great insights into the healthcare industry. And he coordinated a field trip, which are now called off-site experiences or something, to visit the Siemens Healthcare campus In May of 2022, the students were both amazed and fascinated to learn about the various diagnostic products, instruments, and devices that are developed, manufactured, and distributed throughout the world from this facility. Again, another eye-opening opportunity for our students. Thank you both. Come on over here. You gotta look at the camera there. Julian. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Our next recipients, again, from the Wake Early College Health Science, are Ms. Kendall Rush and Ms. Jennifer Jones. During the pandemic, Ms. Rush collaborated and partnered with Wake Early College to offer students career awareness opportunities through Wake Works Wednesdays and Thoughtful Thursdays online presentations. Many relevant topics and guest speakers were offered. During CTE month, Ms. Rush helped to secure 10 guest speakers for the health science students. This event had a huge impact on the health science students within the county. Over 750 Wake County Public School students participated from 5 high schools and 5 middle schools. Ms. Rush secured and provided career awareness and exploration opportunities during the Wake Med's 2022 mini medical school and summer internships. Ms. Jones has been a driving force behind the continued success of the Wake Med and the Wake Early College High School partnership, which originated over 15 years ago. Ms. Jones has ensured the purchase of important equipment from Wake Med wish lists for Wake Early College students. These items have specific purpose to increase students' academic and career development. During the pandemic, Ms. Jones has remained a supporter of collaborations and initiatives that focus on increasing the Wake Early College students' career awareness and explorations. Thank you both very much. Thank you all. Our next recipient is an architect. Imagine that. Mr. Mike Germano. Is it Germano? Germano, sorry. Has shown his commitment, involvement, and passion in the new Zebulon GT Magnet Middle School after-school club entitled Diversify Architect, which the superintendent mentioned earlier. Mr. Germano volunteered his time to facilitate meetings twice per month, which started out virtually and then became in person. He took the group of students to projects under construction after school, bought them hard hats, gave them the tours, helped them understand what construction and design is all about. And the Diversify Architect organization, as Superintendent Moore referred to early, put together a competitive design project called 2030 Interstellar Village, and he guided the school's team through the project as they created and designed a living environment in outer space. He was able to help the students use Tinkercard, which is a software program, to create their designs and then help the students print their designs on the school's 3D printer. Very good. Very impressive. Thank you very much. This year, South Garner started an Academy of Logistics and Planning, and they were fortunate to come across a young lady named Sheila Benny of Fortna. Did I pronounce that right, Sheila? Okay. This is the first year, as I said, for the Academy. She stepped up to the role of board chair after the first board meeting. When she heard about the Academy's first off-site learning experience, which you know is a field trip, reached out to see how that she and her team could support the students, came to the school, and led a classroom session on how technology is integrated into logistics. They used workplace scenarios to engage students throughout the session. She supports career development for all students because the CDC at South Garner called her and said, hey, I've got another CDC that's inquiring about logistics. And so she got engaged with them. And as Tim tells the story, he found out that she is very big and passionate of working with our young people. And so I think that's a great credit not only to her but her company. She's a business professional that recognizes these young people are our future, and just like all businesses, there's lots of fish. She needs to help those fish be successful. Thank you. Look at the camera, young lady. Our last award winner, well, no, it's not our last. I've got something different going on here today, is Sarah Torensky with Worldwide Clinical Trials. Now, this is kind of a unique, in all the years that I've been doing this, she works with the Enloe Medical Bioscience Academy, but she's also a graduate of that academy. So she's been involved ever since she got out of school and started her professional career. She's been on the advisory board and has served as chair the last 5 years. She's a vocal advocate of work-based learning and constantly providing constructive feedback that improves academy rigor by incorporating hands-on learning and inquiring many other strategies of effective and experimental education. She devotes many, many hours to the Medical Bioscience Academy. When the pandemic came in 2020, she got engaged and started a virtual opportunity for the students so that they could get their internship hours. And then when 2021 came along, she then did the same thing with a topic called food insecurity. So she has been doing a lot of off-site engagement, working with the students to ensure that they could get the credit hours. As you heard Wanda talk earlier, they need 120 hours. So she was able to work with them through the virtual internships to help them get what they needed to be able to graduate with that academy credential. Thank you, Sarah. Look right there at the camera, please. Okay, thank you. I now want to turn the program over. As you heard the superintendent talk about some summer programs, and Joanne Honeycutt, who's our CTE director, is going to make a couple presentations. So come on up, Miss Joanne.
So this is a non-routine year. So this is a non-routine recognition. So I do appreciate a moment of personal privilege to thank some folks who helped tremendously with our summer Accelerator program. We were given the opportunity to provide some programming this past summer for students, unlike any we'd been able to achieve or plan before. So we worked with some very key partners to make that become a reality. And so I want to take a moment and recognize those folks. A few of them are not here today, but that doesn't mean I don't want to call them out. I'll start with recognizing our partners at Wake Ed Partnership, Keith Poston and Doug Price, and their staff. I have not seen Keith or Doug, just make sure they, oh, there's Doug. Doug, stand up. We started with a big idea of an accelerator program for students that would include immersions, guest speakers, some curriculum to help students be prepared and really propel them to the next level or move them faster to their career goals. We started with an idea of a pilot program that grew to 9 sites. We were expecting about 360 students. Along the way, along every step of the journey, Keith and Doug and team were open to whatever wild ideas came out. They were open to pounding the pavement to find businesses that would be willing to host our students and staff. We adjusted on the fly in many, many ways, but truly could not have done it without you. So I do want to take a moment to recognize that partnership and Keith and Doug and other friends and supporters at Wake Ed. Thank you guys so much. When you're trying to arrange a 2-week program that includes immersion sites 4 times for 300 students and guest speakers every day, it takes a village, and so we really did appreciate that. As we started down that path and late June, I think, we had an opportunity to meet with Brian Denisar. Is Brian or Jasmine here from Bobbitt? Brian came and he said, we'd really like to think about doing something to have your students come to a construction field day. I said, yeah, that sounds really good. How about in 2 weeks? And he said, excuse me? I said, well, we've got this great summer program happening in 2 weeks. Could you do it that fast? And to their credit, Brian nor Jasmine blinked an eye, and they said, yep, we think we can do that. And so they did. So our students on that first Monday of our 2-week program went to Bobbitt, had experiences hands-on with a number of the subcontractors and folks that they work with on a routine basis. It went so well that they said to us, hey, you want to do this in the fall? I said, yeah, we sure do. And so it could have been last week. My time gets really messed up. But last week they hosted 2 additional days of high school students coming to experience that. And when I tell you that they rotated in small groups, about 8 or 10 sessions, that students were able to get their hands into some construction work and do some things, it was really remarkable. So join me in appreciation for Bobbitt and Brian and Jasmine for making that happen. One of our long-standing partners in CTE has been junior achievement. Most of you, I see a lot of the educators in the room nodding their head. BB Lee has been I'm going to say a fixture, but not in a bad way. She's been a fixture and a stabilizing force, and a force, I guess probably I should say that, in our work together. When we have called and asked for whatever, we don't hear no. We hear, yeah, Joanne, I think we can do that. Give me a few minutes. Give me a couple of days. And it always comes back with exactly what we had asked for. When we started imagining our summer program, I said to BB, I said, do you think you could have lunch and learn speakers at all of our 9 sites for 10 days? She said, yeah, I think I can do that. And when we started thinking about what curriculum might look like for those days, I said, BB, what does JA have that we could use? And she said, well, here are some things. You can use whatever we've got. So those kind of partners who are willing to dream big and think big with you really are invaluable. And so BB's not here today, but we did want to, again, show appreciation to BB Lee and Junior Achievement for their long-standing partnership and work with us. And then the last recognition I have is another somebody that gets called on a lot for a lot of different things. Bill Seiler has been around for, I think, 26 years. He has led our school to career council. He's also been instrumental in implementing the ACE mentor program across the district. So that normally happens during the school year, and students from all of your schools are able to participate and have that experience exploring architecture, construction, engineering. He rallies mentors. He brings lots of folks to the table to make that happen. And so when we started thinking about summer programs, again, because our district is so big and our offerings are so diverse, we knew that Wake Ed was going to bring in a lot of variety. We chose some construction priorities that would be part of the build. We wanted students to have some credentialing opportunities, so they were part of our work. And I said, hey, Bill, what do you think about doing a summer ACE program? And Bill, you sense a theme in the people I'm talking about. Bill said, yeah, Joanne, I think we can do that. And so Bill went to work with his network of folks at ACE, with pulling in some mentors, adjusting their normal program to fit the time and space that we had, and brought that ACE program together for students this summer. So I would be remiss to not recognize his efforts as well. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. More than you know.
That wasn't on the program that I saw. Thank you, Joanne. Real quick, since we're running a little over, a couple things I want to do is thank the Middle Creek High School, the Digital Media Academy. They do a great job. And if you didn't get enough of me today, you can go on YouTube and watch me later. And it may be something that helps you with your insomnia. You could go right to sleep. So, feel free to do that. I would be remiss, as Scott has already pointed out, that we have an election coming up next month and would encourage everybody, regardless of your views and your political party, to get out and vote. We need participation, so please make that a priority. And lastly, I'd like to once again thank Scott, Dr. Rawls, for being here today and talking about fishing lessons. He has brought so much to our area since his return, and I wondered why he left us, and now I know why he's back, and that's great. And I know he'll be here forever now, and so that I can sleep better at night, and I hope you all can too. Thank you all. Have a good year.